just taking time to think about, is this really that big of a deal? So let's say your spouse is just a slob, like their car is disgusting, it's so messy, full all the way to the top with trash, is this something that can be solved? It drives you crazy, right? And definitely to a certain extent, we can just distract ourselves or don't go near the car. We can just find other ways around it, like you said, until we're completely confronted with it, such as in quarantine, people were probably confronted with many things that they were distracting themselves previously. But yeah, you got to decide, if they're saying, I don't, toilet seat issue, like I don't want to put the toilet seat, they don't always put the toilet seat down. You're like, oh, every time you go to the bathroom, it's like, oh, you get irritated. Well, you really could think about that. Okay, is this really something that I'm going to keep let it just bother me over and over and over? Or just, maybe decide it's not that big of a deal. They're an awesome spouse. I love them. I'm just going to deal with it and, put this seat down or whatever it is for you, and you can just really let things go. I mean, we really can do that. Just let it go. Decide that is not worth fighting about. It's not worth getting mad about every single time I see it, just let it go. But you might think about it and think about the issue, and be like, no, I definitely need to have the conversation. We need to talk about it. We need to be calm. We need to be a calm conversation, not fighting, not yelling. And what you were saying with your job example, what I heard is you were saying boundaries. Like, I have a family, I have responsibilities. I can't just let go into a job and they're like, whatever you want, whatever you do, So your own personal set of boundaries that you're not going to let somebody, in a job situation or in a marriage situation, like, these are my boundaries, these are things that I need you to respect. I need you to understand, So initially it's just got to be an open, honest conversation. And with that conversation, it might take several conversations, but I think a hard thing for many people is they could be having a conversation or even fighting or arguing about a certain issue, and it's probably a big issue, and the other person not really taking them seriously or listening, just saying, that's your problem, you need to get over it. I can't do anything about that. I'm not going to change in that area. You need to fix that or handle that. I'm not going to help you fix that. That is like dismissing someone. Or if your spouse comes to you and they're trying to talk to you about something and you keep interrupting them, what you're saying is, I'm not listening, and what you're saying is not important to me to let you, speak and get it all out. So these are all things. And, there might be a situation where I'm going to ask you, so what if the spouse goes to the person over and over and over and is like, this problem is really bothering me, and that resentment is growing. Like, they might have handled it for years. They might have really been able to handle it. They might have been just distracted themselves, just tried to ignore it, just tried to let it go, say it doesn't matter. And you just can't do that with every issue. I mean, some issues really do need to be addressed. You really do need to have boundaries for yourself. You really do need to have self-respect, You really do need to value yourself, and other people should treat you as that value.
Well, I think that is probably the first thing that we need to understand of why this bothers you, And I think all problems point to, do you not feel valued when this happens to you? I think that's probably the strongest thing. Now,
that's good.
What happens is people will not value themselves, and they'll take that constant...
they'll just get dumped on.
Right.
And that resentment will grow.
Right.
Because they don't really want to be treated like that.
Right. And so then what happens is it gets to the point, and it's just like their body and their emotions and everything can't take it, and they're like, I am valuable, and they feel this huge explosion.
They're going to explode.
And I think that at that point, that's why I say you need to constantly be looking at the garden and seeing the weeds,
Yeah.
and what do I need to fertilize? Do I need to water? Do I need to spray? Do I need to put some shade out? What do I need to do to make sure and cultivate this relationship, which is 100% you,
taking responsibility,
first, right? Taking responsibility, being valuable, looking at all of these things, and then, taking it to the spouse and saying, here's where we're at. Now, for me, it's, you said let it go. So that's kind of like the first step of a problem.
That's depending on what the issue is. So, which is maturity level. There's things that I was not letting go when I was 21, that now I'm like, oh my God, that doesn't even, like, this is laughable. It doesn't matter at all.
Right.
I mean, you grow like chiller and chiller the older you get. So there's definitely things that people just need to learn to let go. Stop. Don't be a nag. Like, just,
Well, and there is a difference there, because I've seen some people in their 50s and they're nagging about, oh, he's been doing that all of our marriage, or, he doesn't, pick something up, and you hear the woman nag, or, you hear the guy nag at the woman of, and so time doesn't solve all problems, let's be clear, and people don't always let go what they say they're letting go. You might not yell at the other person about the situation, but if you keep nagging, you're not really letting go either.
Yeah. I mean, that's the tricky thing, is we can just try to distract. It's kind of like shoving it, like sweeping the dirt under the bed. We can just try to distract or not think about it. But then it is going to keep coming up. If it is keep coming up and you really can't let that thing go, then you have to address it. You just have to, because that resentment and bitterness is just going to grow and grow like a monster inside you. And you'll be 50 years old going nuts about the same. People make these little comments, and and the spouse is like, it seems like you care about this thing because you keep making these little comments.
And then now you're turning them into resentment, that you keep bringing up this thing that doesn't seem enough for me, because we've never had the conversation that I have to change, or that you demand, or that you give me an opportunity to do something different. And I think sometimes it's hard, because we get into these relationships and we try to gel the best we can and try to be cool about it. Like, I'm the man, I love you, we're dating, everything's good, we get married. What do you want to do about how many kids you want? Well, I want 3, and okay, great. So we start having babies, and then it's, holy moly, this is a lot of work, And so now maybe there's resentment, because you're like, oh, he should have helped me more with my baby. And we had a conversation about babies, and it seemed like we were both good, that we wanted them, but then we didn't consider the work and effort that it would take. So now we have to re-look at the garden, which is our relationship, and we have to say, hey, this baby tree over here, we need some fertilizer on it. This is not going the way I wanted it to. It's not producing fruit. I'm feeling overwhelmed. I'm feeling like I'm withering and dying here. I'm getting resentment towards you. I'm bickering to you, and we're not solving the issue. And I want to see if we can solve the issue.